for the day. My brain was fried. And so don't feel like you have to do these all in one day. If you get a whole bunch of French cards that are written out like this, they're a little harder to read, just do 3 or 4 and then stop and go get a batch that is in French. And do it for a bit. And maybe your brains are different than mine and they stay nice and alert forever. Mine started to die off about that second batch. And then you start making mistakes. So, another card, they want to know what do they do the pagination, and they all go in the page number field. So I typed the pin down here just to show you how to type them in. So, and sometimes they'll have a date after each one of those. Make sure, or not a date, a page. So make sure that page number gets in the page field. Are there any questions so far? I'm going to go through those. We'll talk about those later. Here on this card it says published by G.E. Blank at his Pianoforte and Music Store. That's kind of important. And so what I would do not put it in the publisher field for one. It does not go in there. Just his name. Somebody had put this in there and it was wrong. I left it there to show you. So the publisher would be G.E. Blank, but down in the additional text, put published by G.E. Blank at his piano. This card, somebody sent it to me, but I don't know how to do this. And I can see why it's a little bit different. It's kind of topsy-turvy. Usually the name right here is the creator. And in this instance, the creator is here, Dybelt. Blank is the publisher. And so, and you're going to say, how do I know that's the publisher? For one, I've done enough cards that is G.E. Blank, and he is just the publisher. He is nothing else. The other thing is, when I Googled The Storm by Dybelt, it came up and said it was published by G.E. Blank. So I feel pretty good about putting Blank as a publisher. And so just kind of Google, things will come out. I had a question here, what do we do with J.E. Gould? And I looked up everything on this card and could not find him anywhere associated with Kitty Tyrrell or the title is on nothing. Charles Grove. I did find out J.E. Gould was, I couldn't even find anything on him, I think, if I recall. And so I decided, well, he's under the publisher field. So I'm going to put him in as an as a mentioned person. And I'm going to do that because the rule is if you have one publisher, it goes in the publisher field on the item card. If you have more than one publisher, the first one goes under the publisher field on the item card. The others will be mentioned persons. Now, there is an exception to that. If any of the other publishers are companies, we can't put them in as a mentioned person because there's nowhere to put a company. So you will put those in additional text. On this one's going to be Samuel Arnold, and you are going to put the brackets around the name, and then Come Let Us Dance and Sing. That would be your title. And then your description would be the favorite finale of Inkling Jericho. And then the 3 dots. If you want to put written by George Coleman Jr. and composed by Samuel Arnold, I really don't care. You don't need to, because they're going to have George Coleman is already going to be as a creator, as an author, so they're going to know he wrote it. We're going to put Samuel Arnold in as a creator, as a composer, so they'll know he composed it. But if you want to put it in, I don't have a problem. This bracket, I'm sure, is in the wrong place. Probably should have been after Arnold. So if you do type it in, I wouldn't put London there. I would put the bracket over where Arnold is. London has to do with the publisher. So if the publisher is Longman and Broderick in London, and the address is 1926 Cheapside, and he also has an address at number 13 on Haymarket. So when you enter that, do just one.
Stationers Hall, I just looked it up. It was a place where they would do copyrights. It says registration at Stationers Hall was reenacted, having been a condition of copyright since 1709.
Okay, that makes sense. So what they're saying about, or somewhere around 1787, he got a copyright at Stationers Hall. So if in additional text, I would put 1787 with question mark entered at Stationers Hall. Stationers Hall. So that makes sense. Thank you. I know I've seen that Stationers Hall. Oh, they wanted to know, do we, and this is blurry. Sorry about that. I'm not sure what, I didn't think it was earlier, but maybe it was. It's Robert Burns, Highland Mary, written by R. Burns Esquire. They want to know, so written by, is that, do we put that in additional text or just make a creator an author? Don't put it in additional text. There's a place for it. He's a person, he's a creator, he wrote it. So put it as a creator, the role is author. And the ESQR is Esquire, it will go in the title field. Oh, this one has collated by, I'm going to kill these names, sorry, code select, and collated, and we don't have a drop down in the creator box for the title for collator. We do for a
compiler.
Compiler. Those are different. A compiler will just take a bunch of songs and put them together in a book. A collator will look at all the songs and try to group them together. So since there isn't one for collator, just put it as unknown, put him as unknown. It's okay to do unknown. And the poetry by Burns, so that would be, and it has on there sold at, for instance, sold by Carr Company at their musical repository. And it had a publisher and Carr. Under publisher, it said sold by. So I would just put him as a publisher. I take it he also sold it. And so if you want an additional text that's sold by Carr Company and the musical repository, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But he is a publisher. I think that's what that was about. This one here is a little bit different also. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so you can see the card.
Mr. Nance, can you back up one card?
Yep.
Because the questions about H&P Rice, go up above.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
also.
You're correct. So this is the two, we've got two publishers. We got Carr Company and we got H&P Rice. So this goes with our rule of multiple publishers and the exception. And this is the exception. The first one we put in the publisher field is car and company. But we cannot put H&P Rice in the mention field, in the mention person field, sold by H&P Rice. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much.
Sister Nance,
You bet.
on an earlier card we had composer, compiler, author. They go in that order, right? They don't go, you can't put the author first, or does it matter?
No. So you put the one, you just go right down the card. So if, and you may have some cards where the name here is actually the author, and that's okay. And then later down the card you may have who the composer was. So you put the author and the composer, then if you have mentioned person, put those in. So just go right straight down the card. Don't jump all over. So, for instance, here, if we had, if William Shield was a composer, he goes first. If he was an author, he would go first. So, did that answer your question?
That answers that one. The second question is, if you had the author's name there instead of the composer's, creating your title, would you substitute the composer, or would you put the author in that title of that one?
Now, say William Shield was the author, we'd do William Shield, the Highland Laddie. And he would also be the first composer. If down further in the card it said it was composed by, he would be the second creator as the composer.
Thank you. I've been working too hard.
Around on the card. Yeah, don't move things down on your card. And don't add things. Sister Brown, you have a question.
Actually, Brother Brown, but Elder Brown.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, Elder Brown.
I still don't.
Got the name of the quick step. Then we have Albert Newsom and his birth and death date, and he is a lithographer. So we have two names up here at the top that are look like they're creators. But when we come down the card, we have Wright Merrick lithograph by A. Newsom. When I looked this up, A. Newsom did a lithograph of Wright Merrick. He did half length in regalia, oval face front. Albert Newsom, Wright Merrick lithograph by A. Newsom. Wait, let me read through that. Well, your title would be Albert Newsom, Wright Merrick lithograph. And then your description would be half length regalia, oval face to front. And Albert Newsom will be the creator as a lithograph. Wright Merrick is the mentioned person. They just did his. And then we've got the three creators. We have Albert Newsom, who did the lithograph. What did I do? Oh, okay, I know now. I did. P.S. Duval is the lithograph also, so I put him a creator.
Sister Nance, that's IOOF as in Frank, not P as in Peter, that you typed at the top of that.
Oh, that was an error. Thank you. I did Duval as the creator. I'm going to have to go back and re-look at that. And then William Rattel is down here. Composed. I'm going to have to look at this whole thing again. This was a very confusing card. And so when you have like cards like this, you're going to have to just kind of dissect it and put it down and then decide, do I really have everything in the right place? And now that I'm looking at it without time, I'm not sure I have it in the, or the second time, I'm not sure I have it in the right place. This